We were in prayer, but I don't know what happened. I felt my feet were light and a bit cold, but I could not understand what was happening. I said I cannot feel my feet anymore. Immediately I found myself in a place. It was inside the house. My spiritual eyes were opened. Inside this house I saw people that were bound in chain. Then I saw people with machete. They began to decapitate those who were bound. I was in horror and began to scream to these people that had machete to stop decapitating people, but I did not get a clarification from the Lord about what was happening here. Then I found myself above the earth. There was darkness covering the earth, and then the Lord took me to the abode of the dead, in the underworld, and the Lord said, "Daughter, we are heading to the third level of hell." When we arrive at the third level of hell, I saw that it was not like the first and second level, because there were great flames of fire and great heat. The Lord had to cover me with His glory so that fire will not burn me. I said, "Lord, why is there fire here?" The Lord said, "Daughter, look carefully." When I looked, I saw the deads. These damned souls in the third level of hell were bound with chains. Even if they were inside the fire that was burning them, they were not just burning in the great fire. I saw that they were tormented by serpent and huge worms that were entering their eyes, noses and mouth and all the entry of the body. These carnivorous worm and serpent were devouring all the internal organ of their body, and then they were coming out. When the body of these doomed souls were restored, these torment of serpent and worms were starting again. It was a cycle of torment. These people were bound in chain. At the same time hellfire was burning them, and serpent and worms were entering inside the body to devour them. It was unbearable. The cycle of torture was continual and no stop. We were watching one of them in particular. The Lord asked me, "Daughter, do you know who is this man that is bound in chain, consumed by fire and eaten by worms?" I said, "Lord, who is the man?" "I don't know him." The Lord said, "It's my servant Solomon." I said, "Lord, how can Solomon be in this place? It's not possible. He was your servant and you blessed him and gave him wisdom. The whole world knows Solomon because of his wisdom." The Lord said, "Yes, I am the one who called him. Solomon is the son of my servant according to my heart, King David. My servant David has established Solomon as king over the people of Israel. But since my servant King Solomon has disobeyed my instruction, and went to worship false god of his concubine, building temples for pagan god and practicing idolatry, he has violated my instruction and he landed in this place of doom, on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem. He even built a pagan shrine for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and another for Moloch, the detestable god of the Ammonites. Solomon built such shrines for all his foreign wives to use for burning incense and sacrificing to their gods. The Lord was very angry with Solomon, for his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. He had warned Solomon specifically about worshipping other gods. But Solomon did not listen to the Lord's command. 1 Kings 11 verse 7-10, And despite the torment that Solomon was going through, despite the worms and snake that were entering his orifices and the fire that was burning him, I noticed that King Solomon had a beautiful face. He had great beauty and he was of a great stature. He was a royal figure. You could feel that this man, the son of David, should not be here. Then the Lord said to me, "Now look, who do you see on the left of King Solomon? Who do you see?" I said, "Lord, I don't know him." The Lord said, "It is the prophet that your parent worship. He claimed that my angels appeared to him to give him revelation, but those who appeared to him were demon." This man was the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. According to Islamic doctrine, he was a prophet divinely inspired to preach the God of Abraham, but he was going through the same torment like King Solomon. They were undergoing the same condemnation of idolatry. The Prophet Muhammad was bound in chain, inside the fire that was burning him. Worms and snakes were entering his body and devouring his organ. The cycle of suffering was continual. I saw another man beside Solomon. He was bald. The Lord said, "Do you know him?" I said, "Lord, who is he?" The Lord said, "He is worshipped in the world by children who perceive him as God. Yet I am God and there is none like me. This is the Buddha." The Lord was denouncing idolatry with a voice of authority, and I felt that idolatry was something that was in abomination to him. I used to think that Buddha was a spirit. I did not know that he was a human being, but I saw that he was a human being even if he was in the fire being eaten by these snakes and worms, Another character was in this particular place of judgment for idolatry there beside the Buddha. I noticed this character had hair rolled on the head, and was undergoing the same torment of fire and worm because of idolatry. The Lord said, the person you are seeing is Krishna. These people are receiving worship on earth, but I have idolatry in horror, because I dwell in the midst of praise and worship. When the Lord was speaking, I saw beside Muhammad a statue of Mary. A man was kneeling before the statue of Mary, and I saw that this man stood on a rock that was burning and his face was on the rock that was burning. The Lord said, how can people say that I have a mother? I have no beginning and no end. I have made the heaven and the earth. Before creating men I have created everything. How can men say that I have a mother when I am eternal and I have no beginning and no end? Am I not God? Can I not do all? Am I not capable of all? I chose my servant Mary because she was humble. She found grace in my eyes. I used her in order to come to the world to save humanity. The entity that people worship in the Catholic Church is not Mary. I have rebuked her in my word, and she is the Queen of Heaven. The Lord said, this idolatry has not begun today, for this entity has used my people against me to irritate me. She has pushed my people to worship her in order to provoke my anger. She is doing the same today all over the world, pushing people to worship her, lying to them that they are worshipping Mary, which is false. The children gather wood, the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead dough, to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven, and they pour out drink offerings to other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Jeremiah 7 verse 16 to 20. But I did not understand what the Lord was speaking about. I mean, before these experiences the Lord warned me to read His word. He said, you must eat my word completely. When we had left this place of idolatry, we went to another level of hell. I saw two giant demons. The first had piercing everywhere in his body, and the second had tattoo all over his body. These demons pulled the tongue of a lady out of the mouth because she had piercing on the tongue. They took a huge iron from the fire and placed it above her tongue, and they took a huge hammer in order to pierce her tongue. Another man was seated on a chair. He had a tattoo on his thigh. A demon took out an iron from the fire and stabbed the man on the thigh where the tattoo was. The pain of the soul is, like I said, more intense than that of the body. This demon was tattooing this man's body wherever he had tattoo. This place was full of fire. It was horrible, and the Lord was covering me. The Lord said to these souls, I have warned you through my messenger. I made sure to show them the reality of this place in order to warn you. But you have hardened your heart and you have failed to listen. There is nothing I can do for you.